And welcome back to Lycan Studios. How are you guys doing? I told you, I got a haircut. It looks crazy. I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little crazy. Haven't had my hair this short in like 3 years, but I kind of like it. What do you guys think? But anyways, today's video, we're going to be talking about Arya Stark, the fate of Arya Stark. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video. What do you guys think about me doing a personal type thing, like for each video? You know, like me just getting on here doing like a one-on-one type thing. That way, when I do give the shout out, it's kind of like a more personal type thing. I think it'd be pretty cool. And I know something else I got to do. I got to stop saying like so much. It's probably bugged a couple of you, and I really do apologize. I'm going to work on it for sure. But anyways, today's shout out goes to Cameo. I just want to say I really appreciate it. You watching and subscribing and liking and all that good stuff. I know you're friends with a couple people in the comments below, so it's really cool seeing you guys build like relationships and stuff. I said like again. It's really cool seeing you guys build relationships and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, it's really cool to see that on my channel. But anyways, let's jump into the video, the fate of Arya Stark. I'm not too sure if this is going to be part 1 of 2 or if it's just going to be one video, but if I do make it into part 1 and 2, make sure to leave a comment below and we'll feature it in tomorrow's video. Anyways, let's jump into it. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing. Make sure to smash that thumbs up button. We are going for 200 likes. We haven't been hitting the goals lately, but I know you guys can do it. Smash that thumbs up button. It helps the channel a lot. All right, but anyways, you guys know how we do it. We're going to give a brief history of Arya Stark. She is obviously the 3rd child and 2nd daughter of Lord Eddard Stark and his wife, Lady Catelyn Stark. Growing up in Winterfell, she was pretty much raised in the shadow of Sansa Stark. Sansa always, you know, had the lady qualities, and Arya basically decided at a young age that she did not want to be a lady. She actually wanted to be more or less a knight. As it says on the Game of Thrones wiki, she pretty much rejects the notion that she must become a lady and marry for influence and power. Instead, she believes that she can forge her own destiny. She is fascinated by warfare and training in the use of arms and is bored by embroidery and other ladylike pursuits. So you guys know that her journey basically begins when she heads off to King's Landing with her father after he was named Hand of the King. Before she departs, of course, Jon does give her the sword named Needle. It does play a huge part in the remainder of the season and pretty much in every season to come. She also, of course, has the direwolf named Nymeria, who we will talk about in just a second. So one of the biggest things that actually happens in Season 1 is with Arya, Micah, Sansa, and Joffrey. While journeying south on the King's Road, she practices her swordplay with the butcher's son, Micah. When Sansa and her betrothed, Prince Joffrey, spot them fighting, Joffrey intervenes. He accuses Micah of pretending to be a knight and threatens him for striking Arya. Ignoring their protests, he cuts Micah and threatens Arya when she attacks him to defend Micah. As Joffrey continues to attack, Nymeria ends up savaging Joffrey, injuring his arm. This allows Micah to flee and Arya to actually throw Joffrey's sword into the river. After that, Arya knows that Nymeria will be in trouble, possibly killed, and ends up driving her off with rocks. Arya is eventually found and questioned. With Arya saying her side and Joffrey saying his side, Sansa basically lies about the incident, saying she didn't really see what happens, but this actually ends up getting her direwolf killed. This brings up the direwolf theory that I've been talking a lot about, and I actually believe it's going to come true. If you would like to see a little bit more about those, definitely check the first video, The Fate of Sansa, and then the 2-part video on Bran. But anyways, after all of that, of course, Micah is rode down by the Hound and killed. After reaching King's Landing, Arya argues incessantly with Sansa over the incident to her father's despair. Eddard tries to make Arya understand that Sansa cannot really contradict her future husband. Arya is disgusted that her father thinks such an excuse is acceptable and questions why he would betroth Sansa to someone like Joffrey. This is where Eddard discovers Needle and sets Arya up with Syrio Forel, a master sword fighter who was formerly the first sword of Braavos, to train Arya in the art of combat. In later dialogue, when she is discussing with her father how Bran cannot be a knight now that he is paralyzed, this is basically where Arya replies that it is not her destiny to become a lady. I just wanted to throw that in there because I think it's a very important statement. While training to become a water dancer, she actually finds herself during some weird training techniques in the dungeons below the Red Keep. After being a little bit scared about where she's at and the dragon skulls that she finds, she actually overhears 2 men talking about her father. After getting out of there and reporting back to her father, he doesn't really seem too minded about this. He then introduces her to Yorn, a recruiter for the Night's Watch, who plays a huge part in just a little bit later on. And of course, once again, he mistakes her as a boy, which happens a lot. After everything goes down with King Robert and Lord Eddard Stark, Syrio and Arya's training is interrupted. Lannister men have come for her. Syrio knows that Ned would not allow this and basically tells Arya to flee and is possibly killed during the escape. While she is fleeing, she actually ends up killing a stable boy and finds herself pretty much surviving off of pigeons and on the streets of King's Landing. During Ned's execution, she is actually watching upon a statue in the middle of the square. Yorn ends up finding her and basically hides her eyes and decides to cut her hair to make her look more like a boy and vows to take her to the Wall to reunite with Jon. This is actually where she first meets Gendry and of course Jaqen H'ghar. This is also where she picks up on the technique of repeating each name before she falls asleep of people she wants to kill. Yoren was actually trying to tell her that she really shouldn't get caught up in that, but Arya pretty much takes it the wrong way. Yoren is eventually killed by Lannister forces and the rest of them are taken captive to Harrenhal. After tending to Tywin for a little bit, he actually leaves Harrenhal to fight Robb Stark. This leaves Arya with an opportunity to escape, of course with the help of Jaqen H'ghar and the three names. She's already used a couple of them, but then she actually says Jaqen H'ghar, leaving him to pretty much help her escape. After escaping, she actually sees Jaqen on the road a little bit further up. He tells her that he can take her to Braavos to learn to be a faceless man. She of course declines for right now, but ends up taking the coins to Braavos later on. So on the run to Riverrun, that actually sounds funny, Arya, Hot Pie, and Gendry are actually captured by the Brotherhood without banners. This is where we learn of Beric Dondarrion being able to be resurrected by the Red Priest Thoros of Myr. So then everything goes down with Melisandre and Gendry, and she actually ends up escaping them, but is captured by the Hound. So these two end up having a long journey together, but basically he is just trying to ransom her off for money. It doesn't work because of the Red Wedding at the Twins, and then it also doesn't happen because Lysa is killed at the Eyrie. After Brienne and the Hound basically duke it out, she ends up leaving the Hound for dead and escapes with his money. She comes across a ship and at first wants to go to the Wall, but the guy actually tells him that he is going to Braavos, and she's like, alright, let's do it. After waiting around for a few days and basically encountering some guys who want to take Needle from her, she gains entrance to the House of Black and White. This is where Jaqen H'ghar tells her that he is no one and she must be no one as well. So of course she begins the training to become no one. She actually ends up defying Jaqen and the Faceless God and pretty much kills Meryn Trant. As a punishment, she is rendered blind and basically poses as a beggar as part of her training. She eventually passes that phase of training and is actually tasked with killing an actress. She ends up failing again and the waif is set out to kill her, commanded by Jaqen H'ghar. She actually ends up killing the waif and takes her face back to Jaqen H'ghar, who says that she is officially no one. She decides that she will always be Arya Stark and heads back out to Westeros. After she gets back to Westeros, of course she makes the stop at the Twins and kills Walder Frey after feeding him his own kids. She then poses as Lord Walder Frey and basically kills all of Walder Frey's sons by poisoning them. Then after that, the most important thing in the show actually happens. She meets Ed Sheeran. No, I'm just kidding. She decides to make her way back to Winterfell after figuring out that Jon has actually taken it from the Boltons. During a night at camp in the woods, Nymeria actually finds her and runs up on her with a pack of wolves. Even though nothing really happens right now, I feel like this could be very important later on. So after all of that, she ends up meeting Sansa in the crypts of Winterfell. They actually talk a little bit and kind of hug and rejoice, and then they actually go to talk to Bran at the Godswood. Of course, she learns about Bran's visions and then eventually goes on to kill Littlefinger. We won't really talk about that too much because we have in the other video. I'm sorry guys, I do know that that was a lot of backstory that most of you probably are pretty familiar with, but I just feel like it needs to be covered since we are talking about the complete fate of Arya Stark. We need to talk about her past, that way we can talk about her future. So I want to go ahead and say how I feel about one of the most popular theories out there regarding Arya Stark, and that's that she is actually the waif and is already dead. This would basically mean that when she was fighting the waif and she actually turned off the lights and fought in the dark, that she was actually killed by the waif and the waif takes her face and goes back to Jaqen H'ghar. Now this is a crazy theory, and if it ends up being true, like, it will absolutely blow my mind, but I just feel like it is not. I feel like Arya is still alive and will live throughout the rest of the season. I think that it was a very popular theory after season 6, but with everything that went down in season 7 and how we see her kill the Freys and stuff and kind of just killing off everybody on her list, I don't really think that they could tie the waif into doing all that, knowing that much of Arya's background. I just don't see it happening. I think it basically just showed that Arya would lose to the waif unless she does something like makes it to where she's fighting her in the dark. She had just been trained while she was fighting blindly, so she basically ended up getting the best of her. Whereas if she would have just continued fighting her straight up in the light, she may have died. Honestly, the biggest question for me is the fact that she takes the waif's face back to Jaqen H'ghar, where he says, "You are finally no one." What does all of this mean? Now, it could actually be where the waif just stole her face and she's finally no one because she's dead and now is heading back to kill Cersei, but I don't really think so. I honestly think that there's something up with the Faceless Men. I think that they know that Arya is like very capable of certain things and they are keeping her alive for a very specific reason. I'm not exactly too sure yet, but it just seems like Jaqen H'ghar would have just had her killed if he wanted her dead. He wouldn't have let her gone, and he actually did give her a couple chances, which I don't feel like he usually would have. So here's another prediction coming from me. I feel like the Faceless Men will return in Season 8. I know they sat out pretty much all of Season 7, but I think they're going to be back. What do you guys think? So next we'll talk a little bit about Gendry. A lot of people think that Arya and Gendry will end up getting together, but I just have to say that I disagree. I honestly think with her role as a faceless man, which she pretty much is, maybe her role is just to play Arya Stark to kill the queen or something like that, pretty much puts her past the point of ever becoming a lady or ever getting married to even Gendry. I just honestly don't see it happening. She said it in the beginning that it's just not her to become a lady. I don't feel like it's going to happen, but you guys may, and it definitely could. I'm not saying it won't, I just don't think it will happen. Arya has pretty much just set herself aside from being a lady throughout the whole 7 seasons that we've seen so far. She is just not even starting to go down that path. She's never done anything that would make me think that she would take that path. With that being said, I think that after everything is said and done, and she does live, because I do agree with the 5 original people that will live, and even the direwolf theory, I honestly think that she will kind of set off on another journey and possibly just continue her role as being an assassin or a faceless man. The biggest thing of importance for me with Arya Stark is going to be her role in killing Cersei Lannister. I think it's very I don't think it was an accident that she was just telling everybody that she is going to kill the queen. I figure she will have a huge role in it. Now, I'm not sure if that's just going to be aiding Jaime in doing it, because I think Jaime will do it. Or will it actually be her using Jaime's face and killing Cersei? That would be mental. And technically, it would still complete the Valonqar prophecy, which they did not mention in the show, so it may not happen, but I feel like it's one of those things that George R.R. Martin will want to incorporate in the show. Also, something else I wanted to mention, I think Nymeria will come back. Now, I'm not too sure what exactly is going to go down. She'll probably just have a role in possibly saving Arya from the battle with the Army of the Dead, or maybe just taking out a big section of them. That's probably the next biggest question I have, is what is Arya's role going to be with the Army of the Dead? Is she simply just going to be fighting with them, or is she going to maybe set off on a different path to take out Cersei? They could end up actually taking one section of characters and going after the Night King, and another section of characters and going after Cersei, and maybe completing them both at the same time. So anyways, to recap my predictions, I think that she will live. I think she'll play a huge role in taking out Cersei, and possibly even being the one who takes out Cersei, whether that be as herself somehow or with Jaime's face. And then I think that she will definitely meet up with Nymeria once again. I also think that the Faceless Men will return, and I do not think she will end up with Gendry. Definitely let me know what you guys think on all of those little subjects. I honestly think, even with all of that mentioned, the one thing that I'm looking most forward to is her reuniting with Jon. I think it's going to be awesome. But anyways, before we end the video, we are going to take some input from the Patreons about yesterday's video, or the last video. I don't think it was yesterday. So first off, we have Richard. He says, I believe it will be the Dothraki that are now whites. I really can't wait to see the new battle scenes. What's been your favorite theory so far? Out of all the theories that you have ever heard of, let's see the new hairdo. Well, I did show you guys that in the beginning of the video, but I think my favorite theory has to be the direwolf one. I feel like it really connects all of the characters with their direwolves very well, and it's kind of deep, and it kind of just goes back to how their sigil is the direwolf, and I just think it's connected really well. So next, of course, we have Red Sonja number 4. She says, yes, I'm sure that at some point in Season 8, the show will introduce us and let us get to know a little bit of one of the Dothraki warriors so that they can kill him and turn him into a white. They did this with Carsey at Hardhome. I guess the showrunners think that deaths have more of an impact if they can get the audience emotionally invested in a character first. What they haven't learned is that it generally takes more than one episode to make us fall in love with a character. Seeing Tormund or Lyanna Mormont as a white would be way more disturbing. Thanks for the video, and yes, let's see that haircut. Well, there it was, and yes, I agree 100%. I could definitely see them introducing a character as a small role and then killing them off. They do it all the time, and it kind of sucks, honestly, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Thank you so much for your input. So that actually looks like all of the comments talking about the last video. Hopefully you guys definitely enjoyed this one. Definitely let me know your thoughts on Arya Stark's fate. Also, be sure to smash that thumbs up button if you forgot, because we are trying to get to 200 likes. We're going to try our best. But anyways, this has been Lycan Studios. We'll see you in that next video. Stay tuned. Peace.